Hello there, my lovies. Welcome back to Crazy But Not Dangerous. I'm Shorty Vaughn, and I'm super glad that you're joining me today for another Tales from the Step Stool. So this is kind of an unusual Tales from the Step Stool because I usually tell you something funny that has happened in my life, or a little tidbit, a little adventure, that kind of a thing. This is a story that I have never told anyone before because I never really had the words to tell it. Also kind of worried that people would think that I was crazy. So I love Halloween and I love a good ghost story. This is a true event that happened to me. And I don't have all the secrets to the universe. I don't know what's out there. I consider myself a woman of spirituality, a woman of faith, but I think that it's a great big universe, and I'm not sure. We all have questions. What's going on out there? So Andrew and I have been listening to this audiobook, No One Goes Alone by Erik Larson, and it's a ghost story. Erik Larson is typically a non-fiction narrative writer. His stories are very interesting, told from a narrative perspective of actual real historical events, and that's part of what makes them fascinating. So he thought that it would be interesting to write a ghost story with as many factual events, factual people, and could you weave that into also a ghost story? So in that No One Goes Alone, the Society of Psychical Research and some professionals are going to this island to kind of debunk this mystery. And that's as much as I'll say about it because I don't want to ruin the story. And I will. I'm a spoiler. It's a bad habit. Anyhow, so they're mixing all kinds of 1905 times and Marconi and the radio and telegraph and magnetic fields and that kind of thing into this ghost story. Erik Larson in this ghost story also recounts this story of Mark Twain, where Mark Twain had this dream that kind of really affected him. So in this dream, he saw his brother. His brother was deceased, laid out in a coffin. The coffin was positioned between two dining room chairs, and his brother was laid out with like a wreath on his chest, all white flowers with one red flower in the center. And Mark Twain awoke from this dream and was obviously rattled by this dream. And they call this a crisis apparition. And I had never heard this story before listening to this audiobook. But went back through and did a little bit of research, and this in fact was a dream that Mark Twain had. A few weeks after having this dream, his brother was killed in a riverboat accident. When he went to his sister's house to grieve his brother, pay his respects, mourn, his brother was laid out in his coffin between two dining room chairs, and he had the wreath on his chest with all white flowers and one red one in the center. And you know, Mark Twain wasn't sure either. Mark Twain wasn't sure if this was telepathy, if this was just coincidence, wish fulfillment. I don't know. I don't have the words for it. Neither did he. Mark Twain, of all people, stumped for words, you know. Who knew? Anyhow, also, in doing a little bit more research, this idea of a crisis apparition also happened to Ella Fitzgerald. So after a show, she goes to her hotel suite and she sits down and she's talking to her manager, and she says that she had this feeling of being surrounded with her mother's love and her mother laying her hand on her shoulder. At the time, her mother was 38 years old, and she just thought it was the most odd sensation. And she said to her manager, "You have to be really nice to me now. You're the only one left that loves me. My mother just died." And come to find out the next day, in fact, at that time, that Ella had that sensation. That was the time of her mother's death. I don't know how this stuff happens. I'm not really sure. It was 1993. I was in my second year of college, and I was going to community college at the time in Scottsdale. Because community college classes are cheap, it's summer session, they're relatively easy, and I wasn't going to the high country to be with my parents. So I'm going to take some cheap, easy classes over at the community college, get a jump start on my credit hours, yay, hooray. From Scottsdale Community College to our house in Cave Creek, it was about 30 miles. And at the time, you had a couple of ways in from Scottsdale to Cave Creek. You could go on Scottsdale Road, you could go on Pima Road, but the big freeways like our Loop 101 and what have you, those were not even a consideration yet. So I was booking it down Pima Road, and at the time Pima Road was 2 lanes, one northbound, one southbound, and the very few lights. Once you got past Indian Bend Road, pretty much it was a straight shot almost until you got all the way up to like Thunderbird, Greenway, Frank Lloyd Wright. After you passed Frank Lloyd Wright, you were in like Flynn. No more red lights until pretty much you got all the way to Cave Creek. And anyhow, I was just booking it down Pima Road, and very little traffic, very little, there no patrol officers. You just laid the hammer down and just booked it on down. So I'm speeding. I'm probably going about 60 miles an hour, and it's open desert. I mean, there's me and the coyotes, tarantulas, and scorpions, and wild burros. That's a thing out here. And there were washes that crossed Pima Road, so you had to keep, both hands on your wheels and your eyes forward, because you didn't want to skid off into the sand, hit an embankment, and then launch yourself out into the desert. Somebody might find you, somebody might not find you for a while. So, I'm speeding, and youth, you don't worry about things like that. So I had just passed Frank Lloyd Wright, and at that point, that was the last civilization. There's nothing out there, pretty much until you get to Cave Creek. No stops, no gas stations, no nothing. So yeah, just out there, me and the coyotes, just Anyhow, I'm on my way home from classes. My mom and my dad and my brothers and sisters had all been in the high country at our house in Payson for the summer. My dad had just been brought down because he was sick again, and they had taken him to the VA hospital. Now, my dad was career military, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, injured in the line of duty, and he was very, very sick almost my entire life, as a matter of fact. Never really conceived that he would actually, pass away, because he was still relatively a young man. He would get bad colds, bad flus, that kind of thing, and they would just take him over to the VA hospital, and they'd patch him up and send him home. It was not an uncommon thing to have happen. So I'm driving down Pima Road, and I've just passed the last point of civilization, and it's just me and the coyotes now, and I've still got about 8 miles left to go till I get to our street, and then I still have about 3 more miles to get to the house from there. So I've got a while to go, And I'm going about 60 miles an hour down the road. I've got the air conditioning on and the windows rolled up because it's hotter than Hades. It's got to be at least 110, middle of August. And I got the radio on and, you know, probably jamming out to some Billy Idol or something like that. And all of a sudden I had this smell. I'm just overwhelmed by this smell. And it was the smell of my father. It was, my dad always had a particular smell about him that I still love to this day. He always smelled like cigarette smoke. He always smelled like grooming, clean hair, hair stuff. You know, it kind of smelled like kind of minty. My dad was very dapper. He would groom and clean, and it was all slicked on the side and just perfect. And he'd wear a hat. And very, very, very good looking guy. He always wore a collared shirt with a little long sleeves and a little pocket here on the side. That's where he kept his cigarettes and his lighter right there. And he always smelled like Aquavelva shaving lotion. Very, very. So I'm in this car. I'm by myself. I have the air conditioning on, and I could just smell my dad. And it was really very, very powerful. And I looked over into the passenger seat, and there was my dad, just as clearly as, you know, like I could just reach out and touch him. But I'm just coming from morning classes, you know. My dad's in the hospital. And he just looks over at me and he's, "You'll be all right." And it was at that point that I thought that my dad had died. Well, this is it. He died. And so I am just stunned. And I look back to the street because, you know, I don't want to wind up in the ditch. And course correct a little bit. Look back over, and he's not there anymore. And I'm thinking that I'm having some kind of hallucination. I'm thinking that something has gone terribly wrong in my brain. And well, you just cannot tell people this. You cannot tell people this. So if I get to our street, go down our street, turn into the driveway, there's my mom's car, there's my sister's car. I pull up and take my spot, and I grab my books and my bag, and I walk up the stairs into the house, and my sister and my mom are at the dining room table, and they're crying. And they said, "We just got the call that your dad just passed a few minutes ago." And I just looked at them and, you know, started crying and realized something very unusual has happened. And I really didn't have the words about how to express what had happened. Also, I also knew that this was not the right time for, you know, telling my mom and my sister and what have you. We had things that we had to get through. We had to comfort each other, and my younger brothers and sisters would need to be told, and they would need comforting, and arrangements had to be made. And this wasn't a time, you know, to, you know, just, you know, keep it together, Tanya. Keep it together, Shorty Vaughn. You can do it. All these years, I've always wanted to tell someone, but I always thought it was just me. Just thought it was just me all these years. But anyhow, I don't know how this happened. I don't know what happened. I don't know. You know, the rational part of my brain says it's something, you know, it was your mind. You knew that you were in a crisis situation, that it was a possibility. Just your brain playing a little trick on you. But yeah, I just think it was my dad. I think it was a crisis apparition. And after listening to this ghost story and thinking about this phenomenal thing that happened to me, and really how very lucky I am. You know, I had that one more moment with my dad. Whether it was real or not, I don't know. But it was real enough for me. Anyhow, I don't know. This book by Erik Larson, and I'll include a photo of it at the end here in case you're interested in this audiobook. Really, really good. Excellent story. Excellent narrator. But a crisis apparition. I don't have all the answers in life. I don't know. The world is full of possibilities. The universe is a great big beautiful place. And anyhow, that's the first time that I've ever told that story, and I wanted to share that with you all. And anyhow, that's another Tales from the Stool. You make of it whatever you can. Just keep on keeping on. All right. Thanks for listening to me ramble. And be good, be careful, look both ways. I'll see you next time. Bye now.